Okay, welcome back everyone for another episode of the Zamora two-player podcast. We're here for another Sidequest episode. I'm joined today by the very talented Carolyn Urban, also known as Silver Deeds or AG Deeds, a woman of many names. Also home to what I would say the coziest. What I wrote it out, the coziest and the most narratively rich Twitch streams. You always have a very good way of like when you. I remember when you were streaming like what was it, Odin Sphere? Was that the name of that game?
Yes.
You'd always it would be like story time with Deeds whenever you'd start a new stream and kind of you'd recap the story up to that point and stuff. I always really enjoyed that, and you would usually go live like pretty late for me, so it was like a perfect stream to like put up while I'm like winding down for the night and getting ready to go to bed or whatever. So welcome to the podcast, Silver. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
I would kick myself if I didn't start with one specific question I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
I guess I should say we're going to be talking about, you do a lot of cosplay, and you, in the was that last year that you did the Chrono Cross speedruns?
I've actually been doing it for like 2 years now, but last year was like the big, like
It was the limit break thing, right?
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
on RPG Limit Break, yeah.
Right, yeah. And our last side quest episode, we were talking to Terra C Music, who did a Chrono Cross cover album. And of course, that was my perfect segue to bother you to see if I could coerce you into coming to talk about some of your speedrunning experience with that game. However, one of the first things I want to ask you about, because the last episode my brother and I did was all about Final Fantasy music. We talked for like 2.5 hours without breaking a sweat about Final Fantasy music. And I have to ask you, you were one of the 1,000+ singers that appeared on that FF14 Close in the Distance, collaboration video. So
Yep.
I gotta ask, like, first of all, amazing. I cannot watch that video without crying every time. But how did you even find, like, was it posted on social or like?
Yeah, so Alex Bacala just did a post. He's like, hey, I've got this concept, I want to do Close in the Distance. And then he basically just linked to, like, he had like a Drive file that he linked to that like had so he had a video of like, this is my concept, this is what it is.
Right.
And he didn't really say too much details about he just said, oh, I've got a lot of really awesome guest singers on this. Like, if you really.
Oh, so you didn't even know the full scope of it.
He didn't announce like who all else was involved, but he did say that he got a lot of other people, and then he wants to like do a collaboration. Like, he just wants to do a community video. And of course, people are linking to like, this has been done before on the internet, right? Like,
oh yeah,
cool.
yeah, for sure.
The shanties and stuff. So he kind of linked to examples and stuff, and then he had like a folder set up of here's what the parts sound like, and he had like individual he had 3 different parts, I think, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And basically it was just say like, if you can sing high, here's the high, like here I am playing the high notes, and then if you can sing low, here I am playing the low notes. And then he had one like harmony part that was like above the melody part. And then and you can even submit more than one. I actually submitted to both the harmony and the melody part, the high melody. And yeah, like, he just literally was like, yeah, this is the link to send, like, here's the email to send me your video and your like recording.
It was like on Twitter, is that what you said?
Yeah, so he did on Twitter, and he did a YouTube, he posted it on his YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So it was pretty much a free-for-all, and I think he gave us, like, we had several weeks head notice, like, for a deadline. And then I think he did extend it, like, a couple days or something for, like, last-minute people.
Yeah.
And then it took him a long time.
I can imagine.
Because I don't think I think he expected to get like a lot of I think he expected to get a lot of submissions. I don't think he expected to get like over 1,000
That many, yeah. I guess yeah.
um
It wasn't that he was like, we're doing this 1,000 singer thing. It's like anyone that wants to do it, send it to me, and then he puts it all
it
together,
was
kind of
just an
thing.
open call, yeah, and he's
Cool.
like, I will literally anyone who submits something, he's like, I will make sure you make it in.
Okay.
I actually really liked his philosophy. Like, if you go back, his video is probably still there that talks about it, but like, he has a really cool way of like explaining like he wanted everyone's voices. He didn't just want like perfect pitch,
I
professional
Yeah,
singers.
I do
And
remember
and
looking it up after the fact, and I remember him talking about that in that
yeah,
sort of sense. Yeah, yeah,
and that I thought that the way he explained it and like the way he was able to just include everyone
yeah,
was like a really cool thing, and that another reason why I wanted to be a part of it
for
because it's really
sure.
cool.
And so it's like theme accurate for what that song is about too, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
What a perfect match of yeah. That was unbelievable when I saw that. I was like, when I saw like the title or whatever, I was like, what did I see 3 zeros? Like what?
Yes.
That's crazy. And then I messaged you about it, and you're like, yeah, I'm in it. And I was like, what? Like blew my
Yeah,
mind.
I'm in the top. Anyway,
I still can't find you. I
it's
have
hard.
such a hard time
I like
pinpointing you.
screenshotted it. Like I did do like an arrow thing for like family and
Sure, yeah,
people like,
yeah.
where are you in this video?
Yeah.
But I
Anyone
mean, there's just too many people. Like there's just
yeah, there's a
so
lot.
many videos. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there's less people that submitted videos than like submitted. Some people just submitted audio.
Right.
So it wasn't like 1,000 videos, but
Right,
like
right.
yeah, like, there
Was
was
there
a
a
lot.
lot though? It was a lot. Anyone listening to this, I'll put a link to that video in the description too, and see if you can find deeds on there because I can't.
Mhm.
I'm blind. Awesome. I had to at least talk about that because my brother and I talked forever about Final Fantasy music,
Like
and that was just
pretty good
one.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and that was just such a cool thing that happened recently. So that must be just wild to have been a part of that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was an open call. Like, it's not like I didn't like talk with Alex directly or anything,
No,
right?
but just to be a part of
But
it in general.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
just a community thing that's like, yeah.
absolutely. I did that. Yeah. Awesome. So I do want to talk about cosplays because that is something that you have done a lot of.
Yeah.
And a lot of Final Fantasy themed cosplay specifically that I
It
saw on like
it's my
your
go-to.
yeah yeah. Um, I have seen that you've well. We'll start with this. How long like have you been doing or at least like creating cosplays, or what was like the first thing that you were like, I want to be that, like I want to do
Uh,
that?
a very long time. I consider my kind of first cosplay. I've actually technically cosplayed sooner than this, but I kind of consider it to be Anime Central 2003.
Oh
So
wow.
I've basically been doing this for 20 years.
Wow, I did not think it was going to go back that far.
Yeah, it's been a long time. The first half there, it was probably like a once a year thing. Like it wasn't like this like all the time thing,
Sure.
and like I didn't really consider like like I don't know, like nowadays I'm like Halloween's cosplay, right? Like there like
Sure.
so many things are cosplay that like people like I don't cosplay. Like, oh, I wish I could cosplay. It's like you guys do it all the time. Like
Yeah.
Disney Bounding is cosplay, but yeah, no, I've been going to cons for a very long time, and I just love like the cosplay community experience in general. I mean, it's changed and evolved over the years,
For
but
sure, yeah.
it's just a fun thing for me. I love being a part of it, even though
Yeah.
I'm kind of more on the fringes of it. I've stayed on the down low most of the time, but
Sure. Well,
I love being in it.
you've been in like cosplay contests, haven't you? I think like
Yeah,
Crunchyroll Cosplay Cup was one I saw that you did.
yeah, that was probably the biggest contest I was a part of, and mostly because when I did it, it was that's when one of their digital only years.
Ah, okay,
And
so it
so
wasn't
the
in
idea of
person.
like, yeah, that one wasn't in person, that was purely digital. And
Okay,
I kind of wanted to try out like a digital experience on that, and it
sure.
was a good time. I wish there's a lot of regrets on the video portion of it because I hadn't really done video before.
Okay,
And so it's very amateur video done, but
sure. I
I
know
had
how
a
that
lot of help.
feels.
It definitely was a lot better than it would have been if I was by myself. Like I had my brother and like I had other people helping me out,
Sure.
and supporting me there. But yeah, so that was definitely the biggest. Actually, no, I guess technically I did compete at Anime Expo for 1 year. I think it was 2011.
Okay,
I honestly would have to look it up. So I guess technically Anime Expo is probably my biggest con, but like
sure.
Crunchyroll, I feel like the caliber of it is
The
also
name,
very
I guess, has a lot of weight in that
yeah.
industry,
I
I would
mean,
think.
yeah.
So when you submit to like a digital one, it's a video. It's not just pictures.
Well, and it depends on the contest. So
Okay,
I guess since COVID, there's been a surge of like a lot more online contests, and
sure.
so and I think also that kind of that's been evolving as well over as year by year as we're learning things and improving. So I
Sure,
haven't
yeah.
done too many of those because a lot of it's more like the photo, right? But there's
Right.
also it's also more about like how well do you like log your progress and things like that.
Oh, wow, really?
And yeah, oh yeah, making
It's
like
not
a
just finished
you
product.
basically make, yes, like you would make a portfolio of your cosplay, like I mean every portfolios are different because like every cosplay is different, right? So
Right.
like
But I
how you
had
end
no
up
idea it
making
was
them
anything before the
changes.
finished product. I did not know that.
Yes. Oh yes, yes, yes. In fact, that's usually very heavily judged on
Okay.
like the portfolio you submit for your cosplay.
Right.
Because if you think about it, like a lot of the finished photo like is also on the photographer, right? And like there's a lot more going
True.
on
That's
for stuff like
true.
that. But there's a lot of contests that don't judge based on that. Like they will judge like no matter how good the photo looks, like they just want to see what the costume itself looks like, right? And
Wow.
it again, it depends. It's such a wide judging variety. It really just depends on which competition you're going into.
Right.
So yeah, it really matters like for like if you ever were curious about like entering a contest, like it's really important that you research like the specific contest you're looking into.
Right, yeah.
Whether it's, oh, I'm going to this convention and so like, oh, let me look at that con rule versus there's a lot of cosplayers these days that will seek out the specific contest first and then will like go
Make
to
arrangements to
like
go to that
make
one kind of
arrangements,
thing.
right? And then so with online competition, there's a lot more, just knowing when the deadlines are and paying attention to like the notifications on that.
Right.
And then again, like really reading through all of the rules is like a really big one because the rules are going to be different. Like your judging criteria is going to be different. The kinds of submissions, the stuff you have to submit when, and all that, it can be different.
Wow. I
So,
had no idea it was like that elaborate just in the rules part of it. Like
oh,
I
it's
had no
yeah,
idea. That's really, and at least it
yeah,
gives like, I guess it's like more variety for like what kind of contest you want like to work towards
yes,
kind of thing.
yes.
Um that actually feels very important that it has that option, like has those options depending
Yeah, 'cause
on
even the categories will be different.
right.
So like I probably what think people traditionally might think of is like, oh, you have like the best in show for whatever.
Sure.
Like if you go on stage to your skits, they'll do like the best, and then they might split it into craftsmanship versus skits.
Right.
But nowadays, like that's actually seems to be the current trend. Well, again, I've more recently only done West Coast conventions. Growing up, I lived out on the East Coast, so
Okay.
like the first 10 years of my cosplay life has been all along the East Coast, and then
Right.
basically the second 20 years of my cosplay life has been mostly all only West Coast. So that also kind of like the culture of like
For
competition
sure.
stuff is a little bit different too. Like we just well recording this, like Katsucon just finished, which is like the holy grail. Like that's the big cosplayers,
Okay.
con, well, one of them anyway. But yeah, recently there's been a trend for completely splitting off like your skit performances are like just completely different prizes versus the craftsmanship.
Cool.
Whereas like, a while, traditionally it was all
It was
kind of
just like,
one big
what's the best
thing.
one?
Yeah, and then
Right.
they would split, like, so it'd all be combined, but they would split you up from like beginner, intermediate, master. And
Gotcha.
so
Oh, that's
now it's more, well, again, it depends on the con, but it sounds like places are favoring, beginning masters for craftsmanship for the cosplay. And then for skits, they'll split it off by genre. So they'll do like comedic skits versus like dance skits versus
gotcha.
like
I didn't even know
dramatic
skits
skits
were a
and
part of
things
it.
like that.
I clearly am
Like
not in
if
the
you're
cosplay
doing,
world.
yeah, if you're like the masquerade for a convention is usually a main stage, one of the big ticket items for a con, and
Okay.
it's usually because of the skit aspect, because people are, lots of funny in jokes or things about certain
Right.
anime or video games or things, or like feeling feels like,
Yeah.
for the character that everyone loves that like, had to die, or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Sure, yeah.
Or the dancing, right? Like the idol dance groups and stuff are really awesome.
True, yeah.
So there's usually really
That's
awesome
crazy.
dance groups. Some cons have even split that off into its own, like they'll do a separate like idol panel show or something like
Okay.
that. Because that's just grown so big.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's like
That's
that.
really
Yes,
cool.
that's what I mean by like everything. It's just really different based on where
Where it
you're
is and which con it
visiting.
is. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
way more varied than I thought. So that's actually really cool to learn. Um so some of my favorite cosplays of yours that I saw, and because I'm perpetually on a topic of Final Fantasy on this podcast, try to get my brother and I to stop talking about it, and you just won't happen.
No.
I saw your EOS cosplay, like the Scholar
Oh,
Fairy from 14. Love that one. That was so just. And is that what your? That's what your Discord profile picture is, isn't it?
yeah, my
Yeah.
profile still. I try to change it. I like to like on a yearly basis kind of change it to whatever like big cosplay project I have.
Sure.
And I just haven't changed that one.
Yeah, I just when I saw that and I
Uh,
looked at your Discord, I'm like, oh, like yeah, okay, that's exactly because I kind of
mhm.
I never really paid attention to what it was. Then I saw your cosplay and I was like, oh wait, that's exactly what her picture is. But I love
Yeah,
that one.
I love it too. That was one of my last actually I want to say I'm pretty sure that was the last cosplay I did before, or competition I participated in was
Oh
for
wow.
AOS at KumoriCon, I think,
Okay.
before COVID. I mean,
Right.
um, and then I was able to. That's what I wore for the. If you, I don't know if you saw the Final Fantasy like cosplay Pass the Brush, like the big one with like. There's one with
Uh
like 100 people in
yeah,
it.
yes, I
Um,
did. Yeah.
so yeah, I was able to do AOS for that, and that was lots of
So
fun.
cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
You did the esthetician, which is a real deep cut from 14. I don't think I wasn't expecting it. I don't know why, but I saw it. It was like that was like only a Final Fantasy 14 player will know who that is because it's such a
Well,
minor
actually,
character.
yeah, that one was for Digital Fan Fest, actually.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I saw some pictures of you at like I think you had posted some pictures. Oh wait, the digital fan fest you said.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
So,
sorry.
yeah, for in 2020, since they couldn't do a physical
Right.
fan fest, which made us all
Yeah, unfortunate.
they actually changed the because like they've done like a cosplay. I wouldn't call it a competition. It's more like a cosplay showcase that they do, and then
Yeah,
like
it feels
you know
more like that. Yeah,
like yeah like they'll still pick winners, but it's more just like
just
they
celebrating it.
yeah, they're more just like these are our favorites out of everyone we liked, but they still let everyone like walk the stage.
Yeah,
Like it's still a contest, in
for
name, but
sure.
like it is more. But because it was digital and they wanted to have, and there was only the one fan fest, so it was like globally.
Right.
They completely switched it up, and they actually didn't want it to be like big, huge, like BlizzCon style thousands of dollar cosplay. They wanted it to be like thrown together like at home. Like
And
they
that's what
wanted it
that
to
this one
be,
was. The esthetician was
yeah,
that.
like a small stuff. I had actually I think I did get uh no, it was all stuff I had. And that's kind of why I ended up choosing the esthetician, because I'm like, I had this old, like, it was just one of those, like, oh, here's this old wig I had, and like, I
Sure.
don't, it was one of those, like, I've always been like, I always thought that would be a fun cosplay to do, but like I would never really do that one at a con per se.
You want to go big on
um
those ones.
well, not necessarily big, but just like there's others I would above the list.
Sure.
Let's
Okay.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
feel
kind of what I mean. You want to go for like the ones you really want, as opposed to like a side character, I guess maybe. But yeah.
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 But so for the digital fan fest cosplay event, they wanted it to be like you know, throw, not nothing fancy, just
Sure.
homemade stuff. And like, and you had to have the sign, like they actually really
Yeah.
prioritize,
Yeah. I
like,
think you have
you
a
had
picture with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
with like basically your name and like what you're like. Anyway, it was part of it that they
Sure.
wanted to do. So yeah, that's what I did. It's like, oh, I've got these
I loved
stickers.
seeing that, and it was so unexpected, but it was like it's so dead on too. Like it's actually a very good, like very accurate cosplay of that character. It was really
I
cool.
mean, again, it's kind of just a jacket. Like the color is just like you're able to fake a lot of things for a photo, right?
Sure, yeah. Well, it worked because he fooled me.
I did
Um,
I did put extra effort into, like, because the wig was just pink, and I did put the purple and like
yeah,
style it. So
the hair
I guess
was
that's
bang
kind of
on
where
for
most
sure.
of and the obviously the face paint, I guess. So
Yeah,
there was like probably a few hours worth of effort,
sure.
to get that
It's
picture.
excellent. I really enjoyed that one. Uh, I
Thanks.
saw your Pain cosplay, which to me is like a super underrated uh
Oh, I love
character.
Tentu.
That
I love Final Fantasy Tentu so much.
yeah.
And that one actually, like, is very near and dear to me because it's probably my favorite, like, the best, like, cosplay group I've ever been a part of.
Oh wow.
And I don't really have much of the group fit. I'm also terrible at posting pictures of. I have like 10 times more cosplay than pictures that I post.
I mean,
And
you
now
had
a
enough
lot
for me to do some research, so you did enough for me at least.
but like a lot of the time it's because like the pictures exist on like friends accounts and stuff, and so like I
Sure.
just like I'm just terrible at
Sure.
my own image on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the yeah, Final Fantasy, oh man, doing Yuripa like was probably one of the brightest moments of my cosplay life, is
Yeah.
that group. It was such a good time.
And and that Pain cosplay was very good.
Oh, thank
That
you.
one
I'm
was very
very
accurate.
proud. I
Yeah.
could probably wear it today. Like I put, like, that one was an earlier one too. Like, well, that
Sure.
one's probably 10 years down the line. Like older, but definitely was made when I was starting to actually be like, instead of just doing quick throw together. Because again, like a lot of my earlier stuff was just like, oh, I
Like
want to
take
do this.
pieces of things.
Right, and just, not really well made, but I don't, that's, it didn't need to be. That's not why I was doing those cosplays.
Right.
But like Pain was the first time where it's like, even though I wasn't like that one, I never submitted Pain for a competition. But that was probably one of the first ones where even though I wasn't competing with it, I still like took time to like really make that one good.
Yeah.
And
Well, when it's like an important character to you too, like I imagine it's easier to put extra hours in it, even though you're just doing it for mostly for yourself.
mhm. Well, and the group I was with, I actually
Or
I
that too,
made
yeah.
probably 2/3 of like the whole group, like most of Yuna and
Wow.
not all of Riku, probably, yeah, because she still like knit her own scarf and stuff, but like, yes, but most of Yuna was also me. Anyway, it was a good time.
Wow. Oh, that's so much fun. One, I have no idea how the hell you wore it comfortably. The mammoth, the
Oh,
it's like the little
it's actually
minion.
very comfortable.
Real, it
And
looked
it's
like it would be sweltering in that thing.
no, well, okay, so that one was for FanFest
Right.
2018.
Right.
And that one, so that was during kind of the winter time in Vegas, so like it actually really wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Um, and it's actually not foam. Like that one was made basically it's kind of like a fleece material that hardens when you heat it.
Okay.
Um,
Was it heavy?
and
Like it was
so
huge.
no, it's super lightweight.
Wow.
I actually, and I also wore it to the concert. I feel so bad. I wore it to so before FanFest of 2018, they actually did a Final Fantasy 14 concert
The
in
Primals
Los
one?
Angeles. No, no, no. This is like an orchestral concert in
Oh,
Los
okay.
Angeles. It's the first one they did in the United States,
Oh, okay.
and I think the only one until like oh my god, next year's gonna be like they're doing another orchestral concert in
Yeah.
2036. If I could get tickets, I'm like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
excited.
Yeah, that'll come down. Everyone's probably waiting to go back and see one of those live at this point.
Yes. Um, but yes, I wore it to that because they did it at the Dolby Theater, if I'm remembering the theater right.
Okay.
Like the theater in LA that like has like the red carpet and like
Right.
that's where like award shows and stuff. Um, and so they did kind of a special event where they like opened it up to cosplayers to walk the red carpet and like pose with Yoshi P and
Oh my
also Vin.
goodness.
And so I think yeah they had several people like at that concert actually. Um, so yeah, I wore the mammoth to that, and then like FanFest was like super like was months after that. So like like they basically posted like the applications for the contest right after the symphony,
Okay.
and so I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna submit my mammoth to that. But I ended
Sure.
up like losing like a lot of the pieces like ended up getting lost like from like the time coming back from LA and then like packing to go to FanFest. I
right.
thought I had them on. It's like, oh no, like I don't have some of these pieces, and so I had to. I still feel bad to this. Like I'm admitting it, but like that was one of those like, oh god, I have to like I have to like crunch like
Yeah.
these pieces because I didn't want to bow out at a concert. So I'm
right.
like, no, I do
Yeah, no, that would be one you'd want to do for sure. Yeah. Uh, yeah, looking at it, it looked like a nightmare to get around in, but it sounds like you knew the right stuff to use.
they did have like security and stuff, so like I just made sure to like not be wearing the helmet and
Sure.
like and mask. Like so I basically went through security with all that off,
right.
and then like put it on. But yeah, it was a really good time.
Yeah, that was
Like
impressive. That was the one that stood out the most when I was looking through some of your
oh,
pictures.
thanks. I definitely like that isn't the best. Like, not much attention to detail was put into that cosplay. Like, it was more just a fun mascot cosplay for me. I just love doing mascot cosplays. It's a really
Sure.
fun thing.
And it's very
Um,
unique. I don't think I've seen many people cosplay that minion before.
Minions.
Yeah,
Oh no, there's
it's really
lots of
cool.
minions that would make great cosplay. Come on. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, minions of like all the characters too, all the NPCs.
yeah. No, it was that was awesome. That was probably my favorite one I saw. The close second was your Venti cosplay from Genshin with an how do you is it automaton? Is that what those are called?
Oh, your copy. Yeah. Oh, it's not. Usually it's at my desk, but it's over here.
yeah.
So,
I had a good laugh
yeah,
at that one. That was pretty good. Because you were playing the Genshin theme. Was that what you were
yeah,
trying to play with it?
yeah. I think when I did that one, I think it was Venti's first rerun banner, and I didn't have
okay.
Venti yet. Like I was around when Genshin first came out and was kind of playing it, but I didn't quite get into it yet, and so I
Sure.
didn't roll on Venti the first time around. But his second banner, I'm like, okay, I want to get Venti.
Yeah.
And so I did the cosplay, and that one in that video, I didn't actually make that cosplay. I just want to be clear, I didn't make that cosplay specifically.
sure.
Although I have since then made pieces like 100% made pieces of it myself, and
Okay.
like, I've been kind of slowly replacing it and like
Cool.
making it my own, and it's almost all my own at
Got a
this
good
point.
template to work off of at least then.
Well, so with Genshin, so I guess this has this is like kind of semi different topic, but like cosplay, accessibility has really, well, I don't know if accessibility is the right word, but like the ability for people to cosplay has really gotten a lot easier over the years as well,
Okay.
and there's a lot like it's really easy to go online and like kind of there's like warehouses selling cosplay these days,
Sure.
right?
Like more
Um,
resources for people to get started and stuff.
Yes, well, not even
Yeah.
get started, like, you can buy a full cosplay
Oh,
essentially.
I suppose.
Um,
Yeah, that's probably true too.
and Genshin is kind of the big example as far as, like, you could literally buy a cosplay of any
Okay.
Genshin character for, like, $100, and like, yeah, it's not gonna be, like, contest worthy, right?
Right.
But, I mean, if you just wanna have a good time and, like, dress up as your favorite Genshin character, like, it's a really great way to go. So that was one of those, like, I don't think I'll have time to like, I actually have a couple Genshin characters on the pipeline, on my own,
Right.
uh, but, like, it is nice to just be able to just, like, not have to worry about building something yourself and just
Sure.
have it
I mean,
online
it's a
and, like,
ton of work, so I totally get that for sure. Yeah. Um. So, as far as like the cosplays you have done yourself, what would you say was like the hardest one to come together? Whether it was like, you thought it was going to be easier, but when you started doing it, it was more challenging, or just you knew it was daunting right from the beginning and it proved to be so.
they all are like that. Um,
Okay.
um, okay, maybe not all of them. I guess it depends on, like, I don't know, because there's some a lot of the time I'm not really making them with the intention to compete with.
Sure.
And so I think it's more when I'm like, oh, I want to make this cosplay and I want to enter this to a competition.
Like hitting a
Uh,
deadline makes it more
Makes it,
difficult.
yeah, a little bit, just because you have to weave, making stuff on top of regular life, right?
Right.
And sometimes I'm working on other projects as well that aren't cosplay or are cosplay, but they're commissions or things like that.
Sure.
And so, like, for me, that's kind of where a lot of the difficulty is just getting, like, just being able to work on my own stuff and, like, finding that energy and time to be like, okay, today
Sure.
I'm gonna.
So
Um,
maybe another way to phrase this would, or at least another element of this, what when you're looking at like two different cosplays that you want to do or have done, what makes one of those more challenging than the other that someone like me who has no experience in cosplay
oh,
wouldn't know or wouldn't
probably,
expect?
like, detail.
Okay.
So, and I don't know how to answer this. That's actually a really good question, and I'm just trying to think of, like, how to approach it. 'Cause
Sure.
there's kind of different angles to look at it,
Well,
and, like,
detail's a good point because, like, to me, it doesn't like my brain wouldn't see that as being that hard. Oh, that's just finishing touches or something. But I'm sure it's way
oh,
harder than that because I don't know, right? That's not. I don't have that skill set, so I don't know how much work goes into some of those small things. So like that is a good answer, you know, for part of it at least, because yeah, I wouldn't have thought that takes that much time. But as soon as I say that out loud, it's obvious that yeah, you have to get it exact, and it's a lot of fine tuning and stuff. So,
yeah, like,
yeah,
and I personally don't mind if something's, like, not accurate.
sure,
But, like, for competition though, like, it's a complete, like, you do want, like, it's a different mindset
gotcha.
almost. And so, like, a lot of it is just knowing, like, getting materials as well. Like, for me, the biggest, like, hurdle is, like, getting started. And, like,
Okay,
I think a lot of, like, crafters kind of like, that's, like, the first bit, because, like, once you get started and you're, like, I don't know if, like, maybe code, like, I hear this a lot with, like, developers and coding and stuff, where it's like you just get in the zone and,
yeah,
like,
yeah, you get
you
the
on
momentum,
something for hours. But then, like, you can hit a roadblock of either you run out of a material, or, like, or you built it and then it just didn't work the way you thought it would, and then you have to completely rethink your plans and things
right?
like. And then you hit these roadblocks, and, like, that's, for me, that's the hard part, is,
Okay,
like, hurdling that, and, like, pressing forward and keep going.
right,
Um, and I don't know, like every cosplayer goes through that. Like, that's, I mean, again, like, or any job, like, that's kind of almost anything, right?
sure,
But yeah, so for me, it's like, it's sourcing, like, materials and things. So, like, because I um have a big background just in, like, costuming in general, and so, like, fabric, textiles, and things like that like having just finding the perfect material for a cosplay is actually kind of what that's what makes me pick one cosplay over another almost,
Sure.
is when I find like the right material. Like I'll see something
You can like
like
see it
at a
coming
store.
together almost.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh my god, this fabric is like exactly, like like this is Ishtola's fur, or so, I don't know, I don't have the
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I
example,
didn't think of it that
but
way.
yeah, so like if I guess the fur is the best example, but yeah, so it'll be like a lot of times I'll be like, oh, I would love to cosplay this, but like I'm personally kind of picky about which fabrics to use for a cosplay, especially if it's for competition.
Sure.
And then for other people, it'd be sourcing things like foam or for armor, or like being able to pattern something is actually very difficult.
Okay.
It's probably a very misunderstood skill set, because I guess costuming in general, like sewing in general with fast fashion and things, like people, like you're so used to going to the store and buying a shirt for
Right.
$10 or whatever, right? Like they're so cheap that like there's actually a lot of engineering that goes into patterning and draping and drafting, or like all of these, turning something a 2D thing like fabric
Right.
into a 3D shape that fits a weird, bodies have weird curves and shapes and
Sure.
stuff, right? And no two bodies are alike, so like even if you're buying a commercial pattern to make a cosplay, you're gonna have to like
Make
modify
changes.
it.
Yeah.
Like it's never gonna be exactly your body shape, and so um there's a lot that goes into that. Like there's a lot of time
Sure.
that goes into just that aspect of creating it. So that's that all that in the beginning, and the research and stuff, and then patterning is usually what takes the longest for me. And then once that's all done and it's like, oh, I just need to like cut this and sew it, like
Right.
it goes pretty smoothly after that.
Cool.
um I don't feel like I answered your
No, you
question at
did.
all.
Absolutely. It shines a light on a lot of things that I didn't even think of, like finding the material and immediately like clicking like, oh, that would be good for this like for this person's cosplay. And then you can start like putting it together in your head almost, or like I didn't even think about that. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
very very
I mean that's
enlightening for me.
like a lot of people are like, I'm gonna do this character, and then they
Right.
go out like
That's how I would assume it was. Yeah.
I mean that's me too, but like sometimes, and that's more of like, I mean I haven't done groups really anymore since COVID has like I haven't had a chance, but like
Yeah.
for group cosplays or things, obviously it's like, okay, well I'm doing this character, right? Like
Right. Right.
working in. But in general, for me, it just more is it's kind of like, what do I find, that,
Can I,
or it's either that or like, oh, what techniques do I want to learn? Like, oh,
oh, okay.
or yeah, like I'm currently trying to research and learn how to do, like armor make, like insert thing here, like
Right.
beading,
So you want to
all
find
these
a cosplay that you can like try that
different.
stuff with or whatever.
Yeah, so I'll just like look around at what I'm, or if I am like into a new show, or like there's a new expansion in your Final Fantasy or something, like it'll be like, oh, like if I do this, like this is a cool character, I would have to learn how to do, this thing in order
Right.
to like make this real. And, like that's actually a big motivator for a lot of cosplayers out there, is like
Okay.
a lot of people I know specifically choose projects that they will guarantee like learn a new skill by doing it.
Okay.
Which I think that's a great way to
Yeah,
go.
that's and that'd be very motivating because like learning that like you could feel yourself getting better at that thing you're trying to learn, and that to me feels like it would be motivating to like keep going on that project,
Mm.
to like
I
try
mean,
and hone that skill.
it can be a little slow, obviously, going when you're trying to learn a new skill, and
Right.
sometimes it can bite you in the butt because like you might be underestimating how long it might take you to like,
Sure. Yeah.
like if you're trying to like, working in leather for the first time, or even like embroidery, or or
Right.
crochet, or whatever it is, or a corset or something like that. Like there's definitely going to be like underestimating time,
Yeah.
and every craft it's always like, oh, this shouldn't be too bad, and then like
Yeah, I feel like
like,
yeah, that's probably not exclusive to cosplay specifically, I'm sure.
oh,
Anything
for sure.
creative, yeah, that people bite off more than they can chew maybe.
It's like, oh, I can make a spiky, like even the wig for, FanFest for Shonda, like just making spikes,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I haven't done this in a long time, but like
Yeah.
maybe a lot longer than I
That's
thought.
that's so cool. Um, so one more cosplay question, then we'll just take a short break.
Sure.
I just want to know in general, what cosplay are you most proud of that you've done?
Most proud of.
Yeah. Not
Um,
necessarily most complicated or complex, but which
yeah.
one did you just
Well,
feel the best
so
about when you finished?
most recently, I made Mercedes from Odin's Sphere,
I
and
saw a
I'm
couple of pictures
very,
about that. Yeah.
I'm very that one. Actually, now I'm thinking, I'm still going back to my D-Lit cosplay, but
Okay.
Mercedes is kind of the most recent one. Like, so that one was my cosplay, my big cosplay of last year.
Right.
I've actually had a really hard time just trying to, like, I've actually tried and have entered it into like multiple cons for last year, and then ended up having to like bow out of the con altogether. It's happened to me like three
Ugh.
times for this. It's one of those like, why can't I enter this?
Yeah.
Um, but like the wings were like it's a drastic improvement over AOS,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
also,
that's a good point of comparison
yeah.
between those two cosplays. Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I mean, I've actually made several different sets of wigs, like you said, like the pain. The first time I did Yuri Pie, did the Kingdom Hearts version where she's got like the bat wings,
Okay.
and like that might have been my first pair of wings, actually. Now that I think about it.
Oh, wow.
Um, but yeah, so like I've kind of dabbled in various different types of wings. I haven't really done too many angel wings, although I have done wedding dress Yuna, and like
Oh
so
my God, that would be
I did the
amazing.
Dissidia version with that, which has like feathers all along down the train.
Sure.
That was a really fun one too. I had a lot of help with that one. I can't take all the credit.
Okay.
But yeah, so Mercedes, the other reason why I'm proud of it is because like, so I've made several corsets for myself. But this one was my first like bodysuit attempt, like at like a, I guess Playboy bunny, bodysuit
Sure. Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Except the way I still wanted it to be like the Elizabethan style, like,
Okay.
because Odin's Sphere kind of is a little bit Shakespearean, although
Yeah.
it's all fairy tale, and it's a
Yeah,
lot
but
of
it has that aesthetic. I can see that.
it
Yeah.
has that aesthetic, and so I wanted the stays aesthetic in the bodysuit. So I literally, that's kind of the first, like, I with patterning and stuff, I'm very much influenced by like what other people have done, and like, borrowing ideas,
Sure.
and it's just really fun piecing that. This one, it's like I looked at so many different patterns and so many different like designs, and really had to kind of come up with my own thing.
Oh, wow.
But definitely learned from what other people have done. But like that was kind of the first time where it's like, this doesn't exist right now.
Okay.
And so I'm very proud of that one. I kind of am still not 100% happy with it. I probably will plan to do like another, like probably 3.0 version of it at this point.
Okay.
Probably for a completely different upcoming. Even though this design is completely was for Mercedes, it actually might be exactly what I want for an upcoming cosplay that I won't say here.
Okay.
But uh, but like, so I'll probably do a 3.0 version of it, because like Mercedes was kind of more of a 2.0
Okay.
of like my first attempt at a corset bodysuit. Anyway, so that
Well,
long answer to say,
and it says something that you want to use that sort of base for another one. Like that speaks to
yeah,
how
like
much
I'm not
you are proud of it. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the progress I've done on it, like
Sure.
to this point, and like there's I could still do better. Like
Yeah.
and I
Like a
used
true
to get
perfectionist, right?
I don't know if I describe myself as a perfect, like I get perfectionist about certain things, but there's
Sure.
other times where I'm just like, whatever, it is what it is. It's, it gets the job done.
Sure.
I only say that just because I there's a lot of cosplayers that I admire that for sure 100% are like all about attention to detail and all about that perfectionism. So like I don't want to like stomp all over that because
Okay, I
like it's like
gotcha.
I know what that's like, and
Okay, I
like
won't get you in trouble with
the
them.
amazing people that really do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that as much, which is why I haven't really been competing as often lately because it's like, oh man, like I really need to step it up if I'm gonna like really be competing again at this
Sure.
basically.
And I know it's hard to like look at your own work objectively, but like I only knew you did cosplay sort of like from a distance. Like I never really like looked a lot into your specific cosplays. And for what it's worth, they are fantastic and I really enjoyed going through all your stuff. So I know it's hard to see yourself that way. But truly, I mean, anything Final Fantasy will get my attention, and I really loved looking at all your, like your especially your FF themed cosplays. So you
Thank
know,
you.
I know you're being humble, but anyone listening, for sure, go check out her work because yeah, it's quite impressive. Okay, so sorry, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Okay, we'll take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about The World Ends with You because I do want to ask you a couple questions about that game, and we'll get into some Chrono Cross stuff. All right, we'll see you guys in a minute. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we talked a lot about cosplay, and my mind has been my mind has been open to how much more intense it is than I originally thought.
Well, it's just an iceberg.
Yeah, this iceberg,
Just like
exactly.
the
That's the
iceberg.
word I was looking for. So one thing I do want to talk to you about a little bit quickly before we move on to Chrono Cross is I think that was also like last year ish. You were doing a playthrough of Neo: The World Ends with You, or
Mhm.
as you so lovingly call it, Tweewoo. I think that's what it ends up being.
Uh,
Uh,
I call it Tweewee.
or
I've
Tweewee,
heard
that's what it
people
is.
say I've heard people like say it differently. Like
Sure. I
is
wrote
it
it
an
out.
acronym or
The
whichever one
acronym,
where it's
yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah. Tweet
where it's not a
the
word,
world
but
ends with you.
you. Yeah,
Tweewee. Yeah, that would be
yeah,
what it is. Yeah. Yeah, I
yeah,
wrote it wrong.
TEW. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or
Um
TWE. Oh my
yeah. It's all we're not going to be able to figure this out on the spot. It's fine. So you did a like, most of the playthrough of that game and I remember you were super excited about that.
god.
It is uh, it's a remaster or like remake of the
It's a
3DS one, or is it a
sequel.
sequel?
It's a pure
Oh,
sequel. So
okay.
yeah, the first
It was on like
um
3DS, was it?
yes.
Okay.
Well actually the DS, not even the
Oh, even
3DS.
DS
That's
even.
how old
Okay.
it is. But honestly, like The World Ends with You is one of my favorite games that I've had the most fun playing, and it's because it was on the dual screen. I think it was one of the best like specific to DS games
Like
that
that
I've
uses
played.
the two screens.
And yeah, like it
Yeah.
actually utilizes both screens really well. Like it's not just a like look at the top for those for what you're doing and then the bottom is
For the
what you're
menu or
drawing on.
something. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I mean it does that obvious like it does do that too, but because that's kind of every game on on
Right.
PS4.
Yeah.
But like the way just the battle system mechanics like actually require both screen like there's kind of some multitasking going on,
Sure.
but it did do a good job of like adjusting difficulties and stuff, so like if you were having a hard time with that like you could still like have fun playing the game. But no,
Right.
I just really liked what they did with that. And then like story wise, like I had a great time too. Like I was definitely the target audience for that game when it
Sure.
came out. So
So
like I really loved it.
the reason why I wanted to just talk about it briefly is because
Mhm.
recently, I think it was like in November, it was October or November, Persona 5 Royal came out on Steam, and I had picked it up in November. And I had played it originally like a couple years ago, but I went through and played Royal again, and I obsessed over that game. I played
Great
like,
game.
yeah, it's. I
It's a
mean,
good expansion
I
for
had played it. Yeah, like I had played the original, so like I knew what I was in for, but like all the stuff with Royal, like the new stuff they added, and it's just like I mean, I could talk forever about how much I love Persona 5, and I like literally
Oh,
like
right?
bought a bunch of yeah, yeah, that's right. And like anyway, so I obsessed over that game, and I remember when I was watching your streams of playing The World Ends with You, it definitely has like Persona vibes that I can remember like watching it,
Yep.
and it's got like characters designed by Tetsuya Nomura, who's like, so like a bunch of the people in that game look like Final Fantasy characters, basically. And it's got the persona. So, like, to me, it's like, I should play this game because it has like the persona vibes that I'm clearly obsessed with, and like the Final Fantasy sort of aesthetic in a lot of the character designs.
Mhm.
So like I kind of wanted to ask you if that would be like an accurate assessment as to why I should play this
Um,
game.
well, the gameplay is very different from
Sure,
Persona.
yes. Yeah, the way
So
it
like
plays I could tell was different.
if you're looking for similar gameplay experiences, that wouldn't be the first one I would like recommend. But there definitely are like similarities. I think there's some similarities with the aesthetics for sure.
And to
And
be fair,
character.
that's more what I was referring to about
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
because I watched you stream a lot, so I like and I think I would make jokes that I have no idea what you're doing, but it looks cool.
Yeah,
If you're not playing the game, you don't know what's going on, but it looked fun either way. But
yeah.
I think I'm more mean about just like the aesthetic and like the music and stuff. Like it all has that same kind of like attitude that like Persona has. Like it knows exactly what it is and
Yeah,
it
it's
uses the
definitely
aesthetic properly.
um I think like just as far as like with JRPGs, what I really like is there's I mean action art like there's all kind basically all of RPG games like spending times with your party characters and like
Right.
learning who they are and also like having like the way they interact with each other as you progress through the game like are all things that I really love.
Right.
And so and then this just being able to play in a kind of in a modern setting as well.
Right.
I think also like with Persona, like so having these interactions in a modern setting with these characters that like you can kind of almost directly relate with,
Right.
versus fantasy where there's more escapism
More of a
involved.
disconnect, yeah.
Yeah. So if those are things you like, then for sure Tweely.
Yeah, okay.
It is probably more for what revisiting it with Neo. Like it does feel like it is more intended for a younger audience, and I've definitely kind of again I was the original audience back when the first
Sure.
The World Ends with You came out,
Sure.
forever ago. And so like it was definitely a different lens, like
Okay.
looking at it now, or even just replaying it because they did release a remaster version because obviously
Right.
like the DS is a very dated system,
Yeah.
not everyone has that anymore.
Right.
And they did have to basically remaster it and kind of basically remake the mechanics so that it can work on just one screen,
Right.
and one controller instead of like swiping and things. So like there is a part of me that's like, oh, it's not this game,
It's not the
but
original, yeah.
but for real, like it does play differently,
Yeah.
but the concepts are all still there. And I think Neo Tweely did a good job of like really landing like this like using the pins. So basically what it does is you get these pins and they all give you a different like attack ability
Right.
basically. And then you have to do different things, whether it's button mashing or like like timing things differently, like changes based on which ability you equip.
Right.
um and it's more action oriented, so you're just having to beat the boss, right? You gotta knowing to dodge, things like that.
I, I
And so
was I was
oh yeah.
watching like I was just looking at some of your VODs of that playthrough, and I think I found like the moment where like the combat system like clicked for you, and it was just like I love that moment in a JRPG when you're like still figuring the system out, and then you do one battle and it's everything just works and you're just like, oh, this is so much fun. It's just like I think I
It's
found
a
that
lot of
moment.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a little bit of like yeah, because like knowing which combinations of stuff to do, I
Right.
think really changes how you play. Like it changes how the flow of the fight goes.
Right.
Like it's not a rhythm game, and it should be a rhythm game. Like let's
Sure.
be like, oh, it should be a rhythm game. So
That's what the
actually,
DS one was? Was it like
no, no,
rhythm?
no, they're not
Oh,
rhythm games. But because it's so well known for its soundtrack,
right. It could
like
easily be one
and
of
like
those.
I'm just like jamming to the beat while I'm playing anyway. And so
Yeah.
like but you it's not, so it's not a rhythm game, but because of like how you can kind of manipulate, like based on which stuff you equip,
Mhm.
um you kind of can, it kind of changes how you like the flow of the fights go, so you can kind of almost fight as if it was a rhythm game almost, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
um it's like
It like
so I
'cause
just got
it has a flow to it, like, and when you have like good music to accompany that, it just all kind of comes together in a really
yeah,
satisfying way. Yeah.
and I think that's like my favorite style of gaming. Like recently I've played or I've like I just got I didn't haven't played it myself, but I watched my brother play Hi-Fi Rush, which just
Oh
came
my
out.
god, that game is
And
amazing.
like that's almost to me like exactly like it's like if you're like Persona or and like In Other World
Yes.
Ends With You, like oh my god, play Hi-Fi
Okay,
Rush.
so
Like
I obsessed over Persona 5. I absolutely lost my mind at how good Hi-Fi Rush is. So I need to
yes.
play this game, I think. I think
I
that
mean,
is our
I love it. It's again, it's kind of a niche game, and
Sure.
I think it's and the story kind of again, it's a Square Enix, you know,
Yeah, yeah. I know what I'm in for.
it's a little Kingdom Hearts as far as like you're like, oh, this is the storyline, but
Yeah.
a good time. And like if you have the time and you're out looking for a JRPG to do,
Yeah.
like this one's kind of flown under the radar a little bit, even
Well,
though it's from, like Square Enix.
like for sure from watching your streams, I had it like on my wish list for a while, probably since you were streaming it, honestly. And it just anytime it would go on sale, I'm like knee deep in another game. Like I just
Yeah,
can't right now. But I think I'm gonna bump it up a couple spots because
yeah,
yeah,
do it.
I
I mean,
think
like I think you'll have a good time.
yeah.
But like I do have some friends where like they played it like, yeah, it's just not for me. But like that's just any game.
Yeah,
Like
especially
I love
JRPGs.
it.
Yeah, JRPGs is a
Especially
big
JRPGs.
commitment, so you got to really kind of vibe with it. But I think from what I've seen you play, and if you also sort of compare it to Hi-Fi Rush in a way, like that, it's the same kind of feeling. Like, yeah, I need to play this game. I think I've made my decision. You've helped me
Oh
make
yeah.
my decision. I'm gonna play
I've
this
been
game.
creating another fan.
Yeah,
There's dozens
exactly.
of
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. That's good to know. Okay, so I had to just talk about that briefly because I had so much fun
us.
watching that you stream that game. Um, so let's talk about Chrono Cross because we were talking
Yeah.
about the music on the last side quest episode I did. So you were well. We'll start with this. Uh, what was the biggest contributing for you? What was the biggest contributing factor to pick up like Chrono Cross specifically for a speedrun? Was it a game that you had like played a lot and wanted to like
Uh,
play a different way, or
there
just
was a little bit of nostalgia. That one was kind of so again, COVID hits
yeah,
and everyone's, like a
lo-
lot of people kind of flocked to Twitch, right?
yeah,
And as far as being social but still, seeing
safe,
what's out there.
yeah,
And that was I just happened to I discovered a lot of really fun just Twitch streamers in general, like just playing all these games that I love, and then also playing games that I like always meant to get around to and didn't, and then um I'd known about Let's Plays and things, but like that was kind of my first time actually like, oh, like interacting with streamers as they're playing, and having
sure,
a good time. I actually think the first one I found might have been Legend of Dragoon. I don't know. One of the oldie JR, not oldies, but like one of the
like
aughts,
PS1
like
eras.
early, yeah, PS1
I think we
JRPGs.
can call that old at this point.
Well, I would, except you've got even, you've got classics, right? That
Yeah,
are,
true.
the 8-bit stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but what was I saying? Oh, and I think yeah, so just kind of a few, like maybe a few months of that, and then yeah, just stumbling on I think someone doing Chrono Cross, and then that kind of eventually raiding. I think just with raids and stuff,
Right.
like actually finding a speedrunner doing it,
Yep.
and that just happened to kind of be like a kind of one of the big peaks of like the Chrono Cross community speedrunning,
Okay.
like kind of as far as several people like pushing for a world record at that point.
Okay.
I think that I think what spurred like I think they had also just done. Oh, that's what it was. I just remembered. So like I had stumbled upon these people that were starting the speed run, and then like very very closely after that was when RPG Limit Break did their first Chrono Relay,
Okay.
where they did an all-day event of Chrono Trigger and then Radical Dreamers and then Chrono Cross. And
Oh
it was
wow.
actually a race. They had different teams
Right. To
um,
do each game kind of thing.
to do. Yeah, but they were they well they had so yeah they had different people for each game, and then like they were all grouped into teams. And it was kind
Oh,
of this
okay.
whole race.
Right.
It was a
Relay
relay race.
race. Yeah. Right.
Um, but so yeah, I saw that, and then I just really like that game. Like it's
Sure.
honestly, I think growing up, even though I love Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of games that I loved playing. But for some reason, Chrono Cross, like I don't know what it is. I don't even think that was the first like JRPG I beat. I don't know, something about it. I think like I was able to buy the soundtrack at a convention, like imported, and so I've always had the music with me, like
Right.
more so than others. That like I mean I had all
Sometimes
the
the
music.
game just hits you different, and it just
Yeah,
sticks with you. Yeah. I totally get that. Yeah.
and like just like the discussions online over like the weird. I mean, there's like a lot of convoluted stuff with Chrono Cross, but like
Sure.
but plot wise, there's a lot of fun things to like think about, and
Yeah.
I don't know. So all of that said, seeing the relay and being like, yeah, because like I knew obviously there's a big Chrono Trigger scene with
Yep.
speed running. Like I've seen that on like GDQ and stuff,
Yep.
and then but like Chrono Cross specifically, I'm like, yeah, how is the speed run from Chrono Cross? And of course, at that point, it was still like over seven, a
Yeah. It's a
7 hour
long.
run.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, that's a commitment. But like I kind of found myself like willing to like have it on my second screen and like watching people
Sure.
like like it was kind of a nice like semi long period of time, especially like working on crafting and things, like having that off to the
Just having
side
that
and like
background noise or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
and still interacting, but still being able to break off and do other things that I need to do during the day, but
Yep.
then go back to that and like check on them and stuff. So I don't know. So that it was just a nice community just to like watch.
Yep.
And then of course like because it's a very intimate crowd, like it's like there's kind of almost always someone speed running it, but there's not always like it's not like you go on Twitch, there might be like 5 or 10 streamers, right,
Right.
playing Chrono Cross.
Right.
And so like basically got to the point where they're kind of like, all right, Deeds, when are you gonna do
Okay.
well, and also the funny thing is at the same time of me getting into this and watching the relay for the first time, because they ended up doing it a second time, which I got to commentate on, and that was a little
Oh,
surreal
you
for
did
me to
that
be
before
like,
you like participated like with the
no,
run?
I did do the run, and then that's part of why I got to do the tournament and then do
Okay.
when they did the second relay, being a part of that commentary.
Okay.
Um, but uh like the other funny thing is, at the initial point of me getting into this and watching the first relay, I had one of my static mates in Final Fantasy 14 on his own also had watched it and was like watching these streamers, and like it just kind of so I've actually been in the same Final Fantasy 14 static for a very basically since the end of basically since Stormblood.
Okay. Wow.
We've been raiding together. For the most part, it's been the same. But like, I think we've had like one person change out since then.
Sure.
But
Tight
it's
knit
been a
group.
long time.
Yeah.
Very yeah. Like it's just. I mean, there's actually kind of multiple like raid groups on kind of the community server that I'm on. But anyways, it was just really funny that it's like, wait a second, you like know this streamer
Yeah.
and like, and
Just
so
happened
we
upon
kind
the
of
same thing.
yeah, because he also just happened to really love the game too.
Yeah.
And it just became one of those like, wait, so you're also doing that? Like you're also watching these people, and so we kind of like both got each like we kind of like hyped each other up to start it,
Sure.
and so that's what got me into opening up my own Twitch stream and like checking that out and yeah, getting that's the very long way to
No,
say
I love it. I love the details.
um
When so it was last. What are we? God, what are we? 2023. So it's 2022 that you did the RPG limit break, right? That you did your run
20
there.
no 2021.
God, was it really?
Yes. Now that
God,
I'm thinking about it, yeah, that was
time is
2020.
a
Yeah,
weird
because
soup.
last year, oh wait, did we do? I don't think we. Yeah, because last year is when the remaster came out. Was actually
True.
last
Yeah,
summer,
that's true. Yeah,
and
good
then
point.
the remaster actually kind of I wouldn't say through a wrench of things. The remaster kind of the community really had to evaluate what to do with the remaster because the frame rate actually wasn't very good.
Right.
Like there's several things like that it actually didn't run very well on a lot of people's computers.
Okay.
And so it kind of was this big question in the Chrono Cross community of like, well, are we gonna? So we're gonna obviously make a new category for the remaster, but then
Right.
there's a question of how do we want to redo some like create new categories and how many? Because we don't want to like blow like it's again
You don't
it's
want to
not
bloat it. Yeah.
like we don't want to make all these categories and then only have like five two people say
Right.
something, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
so the fact that a lot of people couldn't even play the remaster very well like so it is playable, but like as if you're trying
For
to
a
speed
speed,
run
yeah,
it,
it's a different level when you're doing it
there's
for a speed
problems.
run. Yeah.
Which, funny enough, they just announced
I
like last week.
I saw
Oh,
that. Yeah.
last
Yeah, I
okay,
saw
yeah,
that
they
they're
just
patching it or
announced
whatever.
a patch release, and this is like 10 months later
Yeah.
for their.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think ideally it would have been nice to still do another like links to tournament run last year and things, but I think because of the remaster, it kind of like jumbled things up, especially because
Sure.
people are now trying the remaster and running it like on consoles and stuff as well, and so it's just kind of like changed a little bit of how the community looks at the game.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I don't. That's why I'm pretty sure it was like I didn't do it last year. I did it in
That
2022.
totally makes sense. Yeah, that it would because the remaster was last summer. So yeah, it would have been 2021 then. God, I can't believe that's already 2 years ago. That's crazy.
I
Um,
know.
but you did get a PB run on your race with Carbon, I think, if I saw that correctly in the
Yes,
VOD.
yes, yes. So the tournament really
Yeah,
pushed me a lot. I actually didn't really have like the best times like comparatively if you look on the Hall of Fame.
sure.
Um, but like yeah, it was really fun being a part of that tournament. And it really did push me personally, like more so than just me like doing speed runs like on stream.
Just doing them
So
yourself. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
thank you, Carbon.
yeah. Maybe it's
And
the
everyone else,
partner you're with. Yeah.
obviously.
Um,
I had a lot of fun with other people as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was just the one I had looked up because I remember you did it. And I was trying to find the VOD of your run, and when I watched it, they mentioned at the end that it was a PB, and I was like, I feel like in a marathon, like that's the best you could hope for is to just get
Yeah,
your own personal best. Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
Um, because so one thing I definitely want to commend you on too is when you were streaming those runs. So is that was your Chrono Cross runs like the first streams you did?
Much like I started my account like to do Chrono Cross like
Okay,
initially,
because
and then it did kind of branch off a little bit from there.
yeah, well then I remember like your Odin Sphere runs and
Mhm.
the Neo runs and stuff. But like for I didn't know that was actually like your early Twitch, Twitch life. But like,
Well, sorry, I should tell it a little differently. So like the initial stream was actually with my because while me and my friend were getting into Chrono Cross,
mhm,
there's a lot of other people in the static that were like, "What even is this game? Like, what are you guys talking about?"
sure,
And we're like, "You guys don't know this game?" And then there's actually been other games in the group where like I've been like, I don't know that game. And so we were like, oh, we should just do like a little mini like JRPG book club, like we could like
Okay. Oh,
so
I think you have a playlist of that on your YouTube, don't you?
yes,
Yeah, I remember
that's
seeing that
kind of what I
title.
ended up that's kind of what I ended up calling it
Right.
initially. I mean, I haven't been streaming like my book
Sure.
like the games I've been playing. So it kind of only lasted for 3 games, I
Yeah, yeah.
guess. But
But when you
I mean, I
said
might
that,
bring it back.
name, I was like, wait, I read that somewhere, and it was, yeah, you had a
Yes.
playlist for it.
Yes, that was what actually like started it.
Sure.
Was okay, like I actually want to like show you guys this game.
Yeah.
Because I really love it and like you guys like I'm talking about it a lot and so
Yeah.
this way you guys will understand what's going on.
Well,
And then and like oh yes.
I was just gonna say, even so, like, still early with your, streaming. By the
Yeah,
time you got to
that was my
ChronoCross,
first stream, yep.
yeah,
So I streamed the game like just a kind of a casual speed run of the game or not speed run. I did
just a
kind of a
run.
casual playthrough of the game,
Yeah.
but I did do like this speed run route of it. So like I kind of picked the things that the speed run did
Right.
um a little bit just so that like just for the nostalgia of it because at that point I had watched other people kind of play through it too, so I was already kind of refreshed on it already.
Right.
But just for myself, I played through it the one time and then was like, all right, I'm gonna start
Sure.
streaming this game or the speed run for
Well,
this.
for what it's worth,
So
I wanted to just commend you on you are so good at when you were doing those runs, the way you would like comment and explain everything. You're like, that's hard to do. Like, some people
it's
are
very
not
hard
very good
to
at
do.
doing that. But I always, that's why I when I had found your stream, it must have been one of your Chrono Cross runs around that time, because that's probably when I found your Twitch. But I was like learning so much. I was like, I felt like I was learning so much about this game I didn't know. Like, I just
Oh, I definitely learned from like all the other Chrono Cross speedrunners of like, what to say and like what people tend to ask questions about, right? And so
sure, but it still
it's
takes
such
a
a
level of. Let me compliment you. It still
yeah.
takes. It still takes a skill to do that actively while you're playing and streaming. Because, like, you know, I did some streaming, for a couple years too, and it's like that's not easy to do sometimes, especially if
No.
you're focusing. So I really enjoyed. That's why I said your streams were so cozy, because I'm just sitting here.
Oh,
I was just like, oh, I'm just here to learn. Like, I'm just here to enjoy the commentary. So those are always just a blast to watch. Um, so the category you did for the RPG Limit Break was links at Fort Dragonia. Did I get that right?
so obviously again because the any percent run of Chrono Cross is still pretty long, and again it's shortened significantly because the remaster, even though there's problems with the remaster,
Sure.
the text still goes faster. It's like overall it's still a shorter run, and it has actually shortened significantly since
Okay.
then. But again, this is back when I was streaming it. People were just breaking under 7 hours and then
Gotcha.
getting to like sub 650 and then sub 640 was kind of around the time, and then like towards the end of that with so anyway, sorry, I'm sidetracked.
That's
So for
okay.
your question, because at the time that the run is so long, um the worry was, oh well, obviously there's a lot of intimidation as far as people
Right.
getting into that. um and so they shortened they did basically the first third of the run as its own category. It's essentially disc one. Not
Okay.
no, it's not. That's a lie. It's
Okay.
essentially so the storyline of Chrono Cross can kind of be told in 3 acts
Okay.
for plot reasons.
Sure.
And so kind of links when you fight links as a boss fight the second time there's a dungeon called Fort Dragonia, and at the end of that there's kind of a big plot twist that happens,
Yep.
and
I
it's it's a,
remember.
it's a good stopping point
Okay.
in general. um and so and again it's just around like an hour-ish run.
Yep.
So it's a nice runtime as far as I mean it's actually a little over an hour, but
Still better
Like
than
the
7
it's
or
still
6.
better than, yeah, 6.5 hours. And that's like the people that have been doing this for a long time, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's just a way to shorten have a shorter version of the speed run,
Yep.
and also a way to have like a more of a race format for the game,
Sure, yeah.
by racing that shorter
Right.
category, I guess.
So, I mean, when you think speed runs, like there are speed runs of games that are, 15, 20 minutes or whatever. So like an hour plus is still, I would still consider a bit of a
It's
longer
still
run. Uh,
but if you're wanting to run RPGs, especially JRPGs,
yep.
that's kind of what you're looking at.
For
Like I
sure,
don't
yes.
know,
For
um,
RPGs, yeah.
especially RPG Limit Break. I had a great. I actually got to volunteer. RPG Limit Break takes place in my local city, and so
Oh, cool.
um, being like I was able to volunteer and help it out because it decided to be like a hybrid physical event. This
Sure.
most recent one, and like I don't know if you've seen any of the games that they run during that event at all, but like a lot of the time they're at
They're
least
long.
an hour.
Yeah.
There are short RPG game speed runs do exist. They
Yes.
do exist, but for in general, you're looking. It's gonna
It's
be at
the
least an hour, if
for
not
sure.
several hours for
Yeah.
most RPG.
Which is to be expected for a JRPG. So when you're learning a run that's like a little bit longer, like that, like an hour plus, one thing that I always wondered is like, is it easier to like learn them in small chunks and then stitch it
Yes.
together, or just run it over and over,
No,
start to
no, no,
finish?
no. 100% you learn it in chunks. And
Okay.
Chrono Cross, I feel like, funny enough, even though it is a longer run, it kind of learning, like if you're like really dedicated and wanting to run an RPG game, and you're like, hey, I want, let's do this for 8 hours straight, right? Um, like because like I said, it's kind of told in 3 acts,
Yeah.
and um and you can kind of even break it down even more, probably into like 6 or 7 parts, actually, to be honest, depending on how you want to break it down. Like there's very clear sections of the game. And so it's really easy. You just you just go through and like make your save points, and
Okay.
it's very easy to kind of like that's exactly how you want to learn the game,
Okay.
actually. Is
In
and
chunks.
probably how you tackle any of these. Final Fantasy 9 I know is another famous, longer one.
Yep.
Legend Dragoon is, like really long.
Right.
Um, I'm trying to think of like Xenogear, there's a lot of them where it's just like
They're
it
long.
tends to be.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's exactly how you want to learn that. So
Okay.
I guess it also depends on like how you learn things as well. I'm sure for some people maybe it is better for them to just start from the beginning and then just keep going and then
Sure.
like reset, right? And like so some people learn better that way, and that's also a valid way to learn the run as well.
Yeah. But your
But yeah,
process specifically was more learning them in like chunks.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and I technically haven't submitted like an actual full length any percent, to be honest. I have yet to do that.
Sure.
But as far as learning the route, that's the best way to do it for
Cool.
sure.
That's how I think I would have to do it, because there's no way I would remember, like if you did the whole thing start to finish over and over, I would forget so many little things
Oh,
in
for
the
sure.
middle. That's just how my
I mean, that's
brain
why you have your
works.
notes, right? Like you have your
True. Oh,
notes.
that's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Like almost any speedrunning community has some kind of document.
Right.
There's a collaboration of information. Some speedrunners individually might choose not to share their specific stuff, and
Sure.
some people they might not even be like readable to other people, right?
Sure.
But for the most part, there's some kind of community guidance as far as like here's
Like a
generally
cheat
how to
sheet.
do
Yeah.
exactly a cheat that you're able to kind of move through, because even like top people will like yeah, they've got most of the stuff memorized, but it's long enough of a run that like it's still good sometimes to just refocus by like looking at it, right? Like
Right.
it
Cool.
it does depend on the runner, obviously. Like I'm
For
not.
sure. Yeah. 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 But most of these, I mean, these questions are directed to you, so you answer to me
Okay.
how you approach these things.
Yes,
That's what
that's
I'm.
definitely how I do it. Like
Yeah.
I have two monitors. I have the one for ChronoCross, and I have the one with my notes.
Yeah.
And actually, actually, for the longest time, what I did, I had it printed out.
Okay.
Personally, it's like I actually had printed out stuff, and I would physically like write in changes or write in like reminders.
Ah, okay.
And I also converted the notes, like the community notes, into like kind of slides for myself.
Okay.
Like I made it in PowerPoint like PDF format
Yep.
that I like had split in half. So it was kind of like a booklet almost for
Sure.
myself. Um so I had it physically, and then that way, and then I kind of transitioned into like having it just on a monitor, but like I still have my physical notes and
Yeah.
stuff that I'll reference.
Yeah.
That's actually, if you want to know me specifically, that's how I did
That's
it.
how you do it. Yeah. That's I wanted the inside scoop of your process. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't have the I know, again, I know exactly where it is, but I don't have it. It's too far away.
So one thing I love about JRPG speedruns is I love watching good menuing in a JRPG.
Oh man, yes.
Do you find that is something that, or how much for you is that like memorization, or is it like just like reacting quick when you have to do some menuing?
Well, Chrono Cross is actually kind of a special case with that. So like you'll probably won't ever see, and maybe you will. Not, I would love to see this. You probably won't see like a blind menuing type of
Oh,
incentive in
sure, yeah,
Chrono Cross
yeah,
specifically because of just um how the items are like they're not always in the same order because
okay,
it's randomized what you get when, and so that makes it very hard. It's like you kind of have to learn when you're learning the menus for that. If there's kind of a overall feel that you get used to as opposed to like directly memorizing specific movements.
okay,
There are specific movements you memorize because of like navigating, like changing characters and things, and navigating where, because again, Chrono Cross has like that elements field, and it's
right,
different for each character, and then
yeah,
like which ones you fill in is different. It's like that. You do memorize that, and the motions for that is very much a like you get to know this. But selecting the elements and stuff is different, so you have to pay attention, and
so that you have
that's
to
the
like
part.
react to basically.
Yes, that's the part that would make it virtually impossible to do like a
Sure,
blind
sure,
good
yeah.
speed run for. Like you would have to memorize exactly what items you get throughout the whole. Like I don't even know. Like
Yeah, that's beyond my understanding.
I could see it being plausible maybe if that's the only thing you try to do for like years. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fun. Like, but I do love, especially with GDQ, right, when they do those menuing
Yeah, I
challenges and
remember they
stuff.
did
Like,
a FF9 one once as an
it's so
incentive, and it
nine.
was so good.
Oh, so good.
It was so good.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like
Yeah,
that is really cool, and I think that is kind of an attractive people for people learning like a JRPG
sure.
speedrun. Especially if you're good at those kinds of things. Like that's a very specific skill set, I
It
think.
is, yeah.
Like to be able to have to memorize that, and obviously repetition as well, right?
Right, yeah, yeah.
But or going off of sounds, right? Like there's certain
Yep.
aspects where you like
Audio
you just
cues.
remember the cues,
Yeah.
and so, but yeah,
So
Chrono Cross is kind of a weird space for
no,
that
that's
kind
cool
of
though.
memoing.
That's the info I wanted to know. I didn't know how much of it was just reacting and how much of it is memorizing. So it makes
Yeah, it's a
sense.
little bit of both.
Sure.
Yeah.
When it comes to doing like a run on like a fairly, that's a big event, RPG Limit Break, like that's a big deal, I think, at least. Uh, what is like the number one fear the morning of your run on that marathon? What are you worried the
Oh
most about
man.
happening?
Well, when I did the tournament, like it was like, oh, please don't do something stupid, right? Or
Sure.
like obviously like doing there are like the Say No to Kid, right? Like there's a very famous in the so there's a moment very very early on in the games, like spoiler but not really, where one of the protagonists of the game asks to join your party, and she's very persistent. Like she really like the
Okay.
game wants you to let her join your party.
Okay.
But for the purposes of the speed run, you cannot let that happen. And so you have to say no to her 3 times. And the no is always the second, like the default
Of
option is
course.
saying yes. And so
Yeah.
like you want to button mash through the text, like the regular text, but when it
Yeah.
finally gets to the actual selection, like you need to go out of your way to go down and say
Right.
no.
Okay.
3 times. And so that's the big one. That's the big
Okay.
famous one.
And you didn't do that from what I saw, so I think
Yeah,
you,
so because if you say yes, she joins your party, and you lose out on a character. So you're basically completely losing out on another character that you basically need for later on in the run. It's even for Links 2. This is the case for Links
okay.
2, not just the full run, not just
Okay.
the any percent. And so like people have like I've seen like Carbon and a few other people, Carbon being the current world record holder for the game.
Oh wow.
Um well, or of the, anyway,
Of
lots
that
of stuff.
category. Yeah.
Um so there's I also say Carbon a lot because like he's kind of what helped bring me through the run. So
Sure, yeah. I
that's
could
why
tell
he's
you
like my
guys
mentor.
Yeah, I could tell you guys
Um
had that kind of mentor mentee sort of just the way you talked at the end of the run, I could tell. Yeah.
yeah. But so basically, yeah, so you lose out on a character that you need, that's essential, and people have had fun trying to route other things, but it's just not as fast. And
Sure.
so that's one, so that's the big one at the beginning, is
Yeah.
like, hey, don't say, make sure you say no to kids.
Okay.
And every speedrunner's done it. Like,
Sure,
you're
yeah.
lying if you
It's
say
like
you
a rite of
haven't,
passage.
or you're new. Like,
Yeah.
that's but yeah, that's in a marathon setting or in a race setting, like that's probably the most devastating, because that's about 10 minutes, not quite 10 minutes, but for simplicity's sake, think about that being about 15 or so minutes into the run.
Oof.
Which isn't, and there's also probably some of the biggest RNG is at the very beginning of the run.
Right.
The kind of the only mob like monsters you fight in the whole game, because the game, another attractive feature of learning Chrono Cross
No
specifically
random
as a
encounters.
speedrun is the no random encounters.
Yeah.
Like for the most part, no random encounters,
Yeah, yeah.
because they're all on the screen.
Yeah.
But you do purposely take monster fights at the very beginning in order to progress the story.
Yeah.
And you do kind of want the drops from those monsters in order to synthesize better weapons early on.
Right.
And so that's kind of a thing. And so like that in a marathon or race setting, can you have to adjust your strategy a little bit based on what you're able to get.
Right.
And like which times, like, oh, should I skip this or take extra time to still get the items for the weapon or things like that.
Yeah.
And then if you say no to kids,
It
or if you say
all
yes
goes
to
down the
kid,
drain.
like yeah, I mean, and you can reset, but yeah, you're gonna be 20-30 minutes behind at that
Yeah.
point
In a race.
around
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So yeah, to answer, that's the big one. There's
Cool.
other ones. There's definitely other factors
But that was
that
like the
I
one that you
probably
were
want more.
most.
Well, I don't know, but that's kind of the embarrassing one.
Okay,
like,
sure. I'll accept that. Yeah, that's a good answer. That'd be the worst one to happen for your ego.
yeah, like no one would let you let it down if you did that. Now I will say, if you watch the tournament game you're talking about with Carbon, we did have a little separate best, because at the time, like, he was like the fastest player,
Right.
and like just the thought of like, oh god, I'm not gonna win. Like,
Sure, but you got the
so
PB
stressful.
though. I still think that's a win.
And I got the PB.
Yeah.
So he actually ended up doing a slightly different route, like a minor route, that did set him back like 7, or I forget how many minutes.
Sure.
Just for me, it was kind of a side bet that the two of us did.
Okay.
But just to put that caveat on.
Sure. One last question before I let you go. So, PS1 era RPGs are like notoriously brutal because of their lack of like auto saves and things like that. Does that factor into like the stress of running that, especially in like a marathon setting where like if you do a wrong move and you die, like I don't remember if you guys did like safety saves for the marathon or not. I can't remember.
Safety saves. So especially in the relay,
Sure.
there's several spots that are like, okay, these, like, there's a couple bosses where it's like, oh, if this goes the wrong way, these bosses can like one shot like all 3 characters.
Okay.
type of scenario.
Right.
And so it's usually for the or there's actually one or two bosses where potential glitches can happen.
Okay.
And so or spots in the game where glitches have been known to happen. And so there is kind of a community agreement of like these are the typical safety saves.
Gotcha.
I think actually for the relay there was only like 3 or 4 safety saves, but there's like a list of like 7 or 8 that are like, but if you want to do these other saves, like
These are
feel
good times
free.
to do them, kind of thing.
Yeah, you kind of get to know what they are. And there's always in general, like even though you can't save all the time in these games, like generally there's always a save point before every major boss fight.
Right.
And so um like like just on a personal level, if you're not feeling good, or if you've had like some really bad luck to like make you feel like you need to save, you always can.
Sure.
Obviously you're losing like 30 seconds to, like
Right.
you are losing. It doesn't sound like a lot of time,
But
like
when you
especially
have
again with like
over the course
most
of
of the
like an hour
time.
long run, if you have to, yeah, if you do it 5 or 6 extra times, like that's a couple
Yes.
minutes, right?
And believe me, like when you're running for 7 hours, like adding 10 minutes to your run, like you want to finish the game.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
um,
Cool. Yeah.
but
That was always one intimidating thing I would think with that era of RPGs is like, man, but I also don't understand the ins and outs of the runs to be like, cuz to me it's like if you're at this point in the game this early and this under leveled, you could die to anything, but obviously it's like it's constructed in a way that you have the best possible chance from that not happening, right?
yeah, I'll touch on that a little bit. Like, so that's another like pro for Chrono Cross is like the scaling at like you don't like so you actually don't like level up the same way as other
Sure.
RPGs typically do.
Yeah,
And
that's true. Yeah.
so you actually kind of like own like your stats go up for boss fights in this game. And since you're playing through all of the boss fights anyway, like it doesn't matter that you're never
Oh,
fighting and also
right.
grinding is different in Chrono Cross than traditionally done. Like the way like eventually you kind of hit a soft cap where like you're really only your HP is going up essentially kind of a
Okay.
thing. And I'm not even explaining like I this
No,
like
but
there's a lot of
I totally forget
intricacies.
that it is unique. It's been a while since I've actually played through that game, and I totally forgot that it doesn't level like the what you expect a
Yeah,
JRPG leveling system to be. I totally forgot that it's more unique in that sense. So that's a good point.
yeah. I mean, you don't get me wrong. Like you're still like on the weaker side, like especially on the second half of the run.
Sure.
And in fact, it still gets a lot of people in the community the fact that we actually go out of our way in the any% to do a completely optional side quest to get the best weapon in the game, and it's like a 30-40 minute detour
Oh
essentially,
wow.
and it's still faster to do that run to get that weapon. It essentially makes like the last 2 big dungeons like it completely changes how you do them. Not completely, but like how the fights play out is a little
Sure.
different. And so, um, anyway, it's just really funny that it's like this can't really be the best way to do this.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, we're adding a
but yeah, like
40-minute side quest.
yeah, it's just really weird to talk about like the idea that like yeah, so you're leveling up through the major boss fights of the game anyway,
Right.
and you're playing through all those fights anyway in the speed run. And so yeah, you're not. It's not like this whole like Kingdom Hearts level 1
Right.
table like it's not quite that type of difficulty.
Okay.
It's a completely different like yeah,
The challenge
it's a
is
completely
not
different
in
idea.
that
Challenge,
alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because I totally forgot. It's like I said, it's been a few years since I played through that game. So I totally forgot that yeah, it doesn't work that way. So that makes it makes way more sense as a speed run for sure. And to me, I feel like that would be less intimidating for people that want to pick it up.
It was for me for sure. Like that was a very attractive element. I mean, I've been kind of mentioning stuff as we've been talking, but like
Yeah.
that was another bullet point on like why to do this one
Sure.
over
Yeah. Yeah.
other games.
Yeah. No, that's really cool insight. I appreciate you going into the detail on that because yeah, that's stuff I would not think of unless I was like heavily researching that game's speed run, right?
Yep.
So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's
Um,
more about manipulating, like, the elements that you use in a
right.
fight and things like that,
Yeah.
and taking advantage of, like, certain summons. So being able to set up the fight so you can summon,
Right.
that kind of a thing, uh, is kind of the strategies. So that's more
Sure.
the routing is around that and, like, how fast you can kill a boss with as little turns as possible using those elements,
Right.
essentially.
Which because the battle
And
system in that game is also very unique and super fun when you like understand it.
yes,
So
that's
that would be a fun part of learning it. I feel like is mastering that combat system because it's very one of a kind.
yeah,
If
yeah.
in
Like
that
you
space.
can miss an attack. There's no such thing as 100%
Right.
accuracy,
Oh yeah,
and like
true.
the run is so long that like you are going to miss, and then being able to, and then this is what I still haven't gotten good at this, especially because I haven't really been doing the speed run for a little bit, but like part of it is adjusting
Right.
to like the strats aren't always gonna like we have these notes of like this is how you do it, but there's most bosses it's like okay, but it's not always going to play out this way, and like
Right.
how do you adjust
Where do
and
you where do you slot a different move in to still get the result you're trying to get or whatever,
essentially
yeah.
or to still finish the fight, in an efficient amount of
Right.
time.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, that's so cool. I've that run is a lot more there's a lot more to that run than just being like another standard JRPG run. So I appreciate all that
yeah.
info. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Um yeah, that's I might want to look at that too. But I'm a terrible speedrunner. I can't stick to one game
I
for very
mean,
long.
I never speed ran before Chrono
Sure.
Cross, so like that's not
Yeah.
like everyone's gonna be like being what's my favorite that Adventure Time quote, right? Like being bad at something is just the first step of being sort of good at something,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah,
Like
that's
I
fantastic.
that's kind of what I like. I don't know. I say it too. I'm always like, oh, I'm bad at this is
Sure.
terrible. But like I really am a big fan just in general, like just a life outlook is like you got to start from somewhere, right? Like you're
True,
going
yep.
to be bad, and the faster you just embrace that when you're trying something new, whether it's cosplay or gaming or
Yep.
whatever, like I don't know, being allowed to make mistakes. It's always
Sure,
nice
yeah.
to
Yeah, we're always our worst
take
critics, so that's a
that.
good life lesson for sure, yeah. Well, I think that's gonna do it. That's all the questions I had for you. Anything else? Any other speed runs you're learning, or you anything you're
um,
working on right now? You want to tell us about?
no, like I don't know. Hi-Fi Rush sounds like it might be a fun speed run. I don't know if I'll actually try it, but I'm actually very tempted just because
Okay,
like I'm all about yeah. It's just an action. You're basically playing Devil May Cry, but like
to a
high roll
beat.
to a beat. Yeah,
Yeah,
like uh.
I mean,
So that could be fun.
even just to play through it casually, I recommend. It is such
Yeah.
a fun game. Even though you watch someone play it, to actually like play it and feel like, do the things on screen. Oh my god, that game I could not put it down. I came out of
Yeah.
nowhere and I picked it up and I could not stop playing until I finished. It was fantastic.
Mhm.
So, yeah. If you ever
So
do a speed
good.
run of that, I would be very interested to
Well, I
watch
haven't.
that.
I need to look into it. I haven't had time, but like I'm really because like it's literally only been a couple days since I
Yeah.
like my brother beat the game, and like I'm gonna get around to doing that.
Yeah.
But that's on the list. I don't know when I coming out of RPG Limit Break, this most recent one. There were several games that I'm like, okay, this is a pretty fun, and just being able to like see these people like in like being there, like feeling the enthusiasm and
Yeah.
stuff. It's really fun. So I don't know. I, I'll definitely stick with the RPG side of speedrunning.
Sure.
I think that for me personally, there's just a lot about speedrunning in JRPGs specifically that I think I personally like over platform games or other or first person shooter stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know, we'll see, but
Cool. Well, I'll be
if
there if you do those practice streams. I'll be there. I'll be there to enjoy it. Cool. Well, thanks again, Deeds, for joining me. If you guys want to check out some of her cosplay, I'll put whatever social links you want me to put in the video down below. And I, especially if you're a Final Fantasy fan, I super encourage you guys to go check out some of the work she's done. It was a very fun time for me to go scroll through that stuff. So thanks again, Deeds. I appreciate it.
I'm just, chatting on about all this stuff.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, for sure. And thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.